All right, let's move on to another game here on Tuesday evening, and it's in the Mountain West. And it's actually East Coast data approved. Not too bad with a 9 p.m. tip-off here on CBS Sports Network. Number 19, San Diego State at Utah State. First place on the line in the Mountain West. These two teams tied at the top of the conference standings. Utah State, a 2.5-point home favorite here, despite being the unranked team, over-under of 144.5. Eli, you don't have either of these teams ranked in your top 25. We were just talking about spots and maybe having to pay a tax on the team who's got a home spot here. To me, it seems pretty clear that's the case here with Utah State being favored in this one against a generally respected San Diego State squad.
Yeah, and elevation is going to play a role. I want to touch on something with Jerry Palm just when it comes to Mountain West teams struggling in the tournament, just because BPI, when you look at ratings overall, college basketball ratings across numerous metrics, whether it's Haslam or Torvik or Ken Palm versus BPI tends to knock teams that play in the Mountain West just because they get that home spot like Utah State with this kind of elevation. And Utah State coming off a blowout loss at Colorado State over the weekend, similarly to Utah State tonight. The Rams benefiting from elevation theoretically in that game. And the Aggies also eyeing revenge after losing to San Diego State going back to a couple weeks ago at Viejas. And both teams solidly in the tournament, according to Jerry Palm and numerous bracketologists. Now, the concern is with Utah State for me, despite the spot, just looking at metrics, kind of like you were with Creighton and UConn, Utah State's offense ranks in the 98th percentile of points per game in the paint, according to CBB analytics, and they're specifically elite at the rim. And Dutcher's defenses traditionally, and the same goes for this season, want to run you off of the three-point line and invite you to attack the paint, do just that. And they're also very, very good when it comes to their rim defense. It's not like they're a rim funnel defense this season. They allow you to attack the rim, like I mentioned, but teams are still struggling when it comes to their field goal percentage at the basket. They rank in the 27th percentile, just to add context, when it comes to opponents at the rim field goal attempt frequency. And Jaden Ledee and San Diego State, like I mentioned, Ledee isn't an elite shot blocker like you had over the last few seasons with Mensa, specifically going back to that Creighton game, maybe in the Elite Eight, really challenging Ryan Kalkbrenner and some of those Blue Jays aggressive guards, even Trey Alexander, who's still on the Jays right now, allowing a 57% field goal clip at the rim, which ranks in the 89th percentile. So that just even adds a little bit more oomph to the notion that the Aztecs can protect the paint despite the fact that they want to allow dribble penetration and run you off the three-point line just because they are so physical in the lane. So I'm pretty high on San Diego State. I actually just, when you mentioned I don't have them power rated in my top 25, I updated that very quickly before our podcast. I have them power rated 24th, I believe. Okay. Not that means that I am looking to bet against Utah State here or would advocate betting against Utah State. I make this closer to Utah State -1, but the spot should be taken into account for sure.
Yeah, to me, when San Diego State has the ball, they are a poor three-point field goal offense, and it's not going to get any easier here. Utah State has the number 1 three-point field goal percentage defense in conference. It's inside the arc where I think, on paper at least, San Diego State should be able to have a lot of success. Utah State, you mentioned a little bit there about them. Just to go even deeper with some of the numbers from Haslametrics, number 273 in 2-point field goal percentage defense overall in the season. San Diego State number 2 in Mountain West play. And then if we look at just specifically mid-range and near proximity, Utah State is outside the top 130 in defending those, and San Diego State is top 40 in field goal percentage on near proximity and mid-range attempts. So I think they can get what they want inside here. And the point is certainly well taken when Utah State has the ball. But I mean, this is a really tough San Diego State defense here, and they're going to be up for it because potentially the conference title's on the line in this game. So again, I'm not going to have a bet in it because on paper this to me screams bet San Diego State, but elevation, tough road environment. I'm going to sit back and observe and try and see how I feel about this. Eli, if you had to bet this game, are you taking the spot with the home team, or are you sticking with the matchup you see on paper with San Diego State?
I think you spelled it out perfectly with the Creighton UConn game, because just because the market drives the number up to a certain degree doesn't mean that you automatically take the other side. Now, it's not like the market the market drove up UConn from a soft opener. I think -2 up to -3, even -3.5. At some shops, Utah State opened -1. So just because this line shot up to 2.5, even 3 potentially before tip, like we saw with Virginia Tech, that line got steamed up. I think even -3, -3.5, up to -115 when it comes to the VIG before that one tipped on Monday night. So I wouldn't be shocked to see Utah State close as a 3.5 point or 3-point home favorite, maybe even -2.5 juiced if you don't want to take it all the way up to a full possession when it comes to the point spread, or you don't think it will. I can't advocate to bet the other side, though. If you
can I offer an analogy here potentially and see if you agree with it? Yeah, Haslametrics makes San Diego State a small favorite in this game, like less than a point. But when we're talking about like near zero here, similar to the NFL, aren't we basically talking about, I don't want to say meaningless numbers, but is it less meaningful than if we were talking about like 4 points between 6 and 10 type of deal in college basketball? You know what I'm saying?
100%, but it could still land one. And it's like it's so different than the NFL, just because you don't have a 1-point play. And that's not to say that you didn't recognize that, but just for bettors that when I used to bet college basketball game by game more heavily, it happens. And that wouldn't be that is not me saying bet San Diego State because the number got to a certain point. I still value spots maybe more so than the average bettor, even though I'm not betting every single day. It's just something that I didn't ignore by any means. So this is one of those games where, even though, like you said, it's not up to a full possession, it's still in the 1 or closer to the 2 range, but it's still valuable, even though it's under the full possession of a 3-point line.